Hey everybody, welcome to TrailSage, and today I wanted to talk about my overall experience that I had with the Specialized Turbo Levo Pro, which I was able to demo from Keswick Cycles in Paoli, and my goodness, what an experience it was. I had never been on an e-bike, so Dan and I demoed these bikes for 3 days. We took them up to Trexeler, and then we went to Mt Penn for the next 2 rides. And I gotta tell you, right off the bat, you could feel the power, and it was so much fun. I did a first impressions video of my ride at Trexeler, so if you haven't seen that, definitely check that out. But I wanted to kind of go over my experience with that bike specifically, but then my overall thoughts on the e-bike in general. And I'm hesitant to call that a review, mainly because I've only gotten 3 rides on the bike, and that's not enough time to like test out all the different nuances and, you know, the durability and duration of the battery, all that kind of stuff. So this is more of an overall impression of the bike and the experience. But having said that, I do want to go over some of the specs that the bike has. And if you want more information about the bike, I'll leave a link down below to Specialized's website where you'll be able to geek out on all the different specs. The motor delivers 90 Newton meters of torque with 565 watts of power for up to 5 hours. The bike that I was riding was a mullet, so it was a 29-inch wheel in the front and a 27.5 in the back. The geometry can be changed, and the front was set up at the slack angle. So I think I was at 63-degree head angle, and in the back, I had the setting set to high for more bottom bracket clearance. The front was 160 millimeters of travel, and the back was 150 millimeters of travel. And then another really nice thing about the bike was it had a nice display on the top tube, which allowed you to see different things. I had mine set up and it was showing me the mode that I was in and the speed that I was going, but you can customize that display. There's an app which I was not able to pair the bike to, but if you are able to pair the bike, you can change the different settings of the modes, like how much power you want the eco mode to deliver, how much power you want the trail mode to deliver. And so the app is really handy. It also allows you to track your ride. You can pair your heart rate monitor. So there's all these things that you can do with the app. In terms of the modes, you do have 3 modes to choose from. You have eco mode, you have trail mode, and you have turbo mode. And in eco mode, they're saying that you can get about 5 hours of battery life. I don't know if that's true. I did a ride at Trexeler that was about 23 miles, 3,000 feet. And I ended that ride with like 60% battery life. So that was pretty eye-opening. I imagine if you were spending more time in turbo or trail, and also your fitness level, your weight, all of those things are gonna affect the battery life. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with that. And finally, the bikes are available in all different configurations and sizes. You know, you have the top of the line S-Works, you know, that has like the transmission, wireless shifting, you know, wireless dropper, all the way down to the aluminum comp, which is like closer to $6,000. And for our demos, I left it all stock, you know, that this is basically just how the bike came. And the experience was just absolutely magical. You know, right off the bat, you could feel how planted the bike felt. And again, I don't know if that was the geo or the weight. I think it was the weight, but it felt really planted in the turns, and it just charged at everything. And that power delivery was so smooth. And the bike just felt really efficient and rewarded good behavior. And I said that in my first impressions video. And by that, I mean, if you're willing to put in a little pedal work, you can really extend out that battery life. While I was impressed with how planted it was, it did struggle in some of the tech situations. And again, I only got 3 rides on this bike, so maybe if I had more rides, I would get more comfortable with it. But in slow speed tech or in more technical terrain, not on a downhill, but like on a flat or a climb, I did find the power to be a little bit unsettling, because the way that it's delivered is the minute that you start to rotate that pedal, like the motor kicks on, and it's like, whoa, you know? So if you're in a section where you are modulating brakes, you're feathering the brakes, you're trying to do a precision move, you know, you're putting in a half crank, but you don't want that power, it's kind of jostling because it just jumps you forward. And the brake does not kill the motor. You know, I have an electric scooter, and you know, the minute that you touch the brake, it kills the motor. Well, that's not the case in the e-bike. So you can imagine how that would be kind of hairy if you're trying to work your way and pick your way through a line and the motor's kind of propelling you forward even though you're trying to work the brake. The weight, that was also another downside. You know, I'm a smaller guy, and 50 pounds, that's a lot. You know, my Ibis, I think, comes in at sub 30. So, you know, that added 20 pounds of weight to kind of move that around, you know, for step ups, log overs. I felt that. That was really hard to maneuver the bike. I also like to flick the bike, and, you know, this didn't really lend itself to that. However, where this bike shines is on the downhills, you know, and on jumps. I have never been someone that has been good at jumps. In fact, this Skyline trail at Mt Penn has 5 consecutive jumps that I've never been able to clear. And within an hour, I was clearing all the jumps. And that was just mind-blowing to be able to do laps without getting tired. That's where I see the advantage of an e-bike. You know, that these, and you might say, well, you know, just go to a bike park, but it's not all jumps the whole time. So you have this really long wait on the lift line, you know, and Blue Mountain is a great example of this. You know, that lift's like 10 minutes long. By the time you get to the top, you're cooled off, and the whole line isn't all jumps. Well, if you go to a place like Skyline where you have consecutive jumps right in a row, you know, we're able to get up to the top of the start of the jumps, you know, within 20 seconds. So you can immediately apply what you learned from the last run to the next run. You know, and I distinctly remember screwing up that 4th jump. It's a really tall, long jump, and I remember like coming up it and pulling up with my feet, and I just was like, no, you know. And so I finished that line, boom, 20 seconds, I'm right back at the top, redo that, and immediately apply what I just learned to that next run. And that was just unbelievable. And I gotta tell you, I don't know that happens without the e-bike, you know? And so where do I see the e-bike in my life? Well, I would never get rid of my analog bike. I absolutely love my Ibis. And for the kind of riding that I like to do, which is slow speed tech, I need that analog bike because I want to be in full control of how much power I'm delivering. And I also want to be able to flick my bike around when I need it to move around. But plus I love fitness. I love that feeling of working hard on the bike. Not that you don't work hard on an e-bike, but there's definitely a difference. The e-bike shines in those downhill sessionable laps. You know, we train so hard to get strong on the bike, right? I'm doing these hill workouts, you know, on the road bike back and forth. You know, I'm training these uphills. We also have to train downhills, you know, if that's important to you, right? And it's important to me. I want to be able to get better at the downhill. Well, on the analog bike, you're getting tired. You know, on that same exact jump line, I'm only able to do like 10 laps on the analog bike, and then I'm exhausted. And when you're exhausted, that's when you get hurt, right? That's when you get injured. So being able to have an e-bike, we must have done like 60 laps. We didn't even break a sweat. It was so incredible. And that to me is the big selling point, you know, being able to session this jump line. Or if you live in an area where there's a really long downhill with a terrible road climb or you know, fire road to get to the top of this climb, zoom right up it on the e-bike and just focus on getting that downhill. So I definitely see a spot for e-bikes in my quiver. Another advantage that I could see was for recovery. When you want to do a recovery ride, boom, e-bike. If you get injured and you're coming back for an injury, boom, you know, e-bike. Maybe in older age, you know, as I lose fitness and I still want to do these big long rides, boom, e-bike, you know. So there's so many different applications that I think an e-bike fits into. And I was an anti-e-bike guy when they first came out. I remember I was like an earn your turns guy. Man, forget all that. I am 180, 100% on board with the e-bike. So if you're interested in trying out an e-bike, definitely check out the Keswick Paoli shop. They have, you know, this bike that I borrowed, but they also have Dan's bike there. So you can get an idea for, first of all, the Specialized Levo, but you can get an idea for how an e-bike feels. And my gosh, the folks at Keswick, they are just absolutely amazing. Great folks there, really knowledgeable about bikes, really helpful, and they have a huge selection. So definitely check them out. So let me conclude this video by saying I am 100% on board with the e-bike. I wish that I had money because I would buy this thing in a heartbeat. But if you are on the fence about e-bikes like I was, just try one out. Go demo one out. I guarantee within like a minute or two, you're gonna immediately see the advantage that this thing has, you know? And if my crappy jumping skills isn't proof enough, I don't know what to tell you. I literally went from not being able to clear these jumps to within, you know, an hour or two, clearing every single one of these jumps. And that alone to me made the whole experience worth it. So thank you to the folks at Keswick Cycles for allowing Dan and I to borrow these bikes. We had an absolute blast. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe, or even better, join me on Patreon for some extra perks. Thanks for watching.